I'm Smita Sharma, and the breaking news that we are receiving at 6:30 this Monday evening is that the Home Ministry has received the Essar tapes complaint. We are being told that the Prime Minister's office has forwarded the Essar tapes complaint to the Home Ministry. The Home Secretary, in fact, has received them, and perhaps after the Home Minister is back from Lucknow. Rajnath Singh currently is in Lucknow, so they may decide on further course of action after Rajnath Singh returns from Lucknow. Remember, as far as the Essar tapes are concerned, the Home Ministry had ordered a probe into this alleged phone tapping scandal which targeted top government officials and industrialists between 2001 and 2006. Rahul Kavala, managing editor who has been tracking this story very closely, is with us from the newsroom. Rahul, what kind of action are we now expecting? What are your sources in PMO and the Home Ministry telling you?
Smita, highly placed sources in the Ministry of Home Affairs have confirmed that they've now received the complaint from the Prime Minister's office. It came to them this morning. Remember, over the weekend there was some confusion when the PMO said they'd forwarded the tapes and the complaint to the Ministry of Home Affairs for further action. The MHA said they hadn't received it. Now the MHA confirms that they have indeed received the complaint. I'm told that there was a meeting this morning where two options were broadly looked at. The first is a CBI probe. The second is a probe by the Delhi police. My sources tell me that the possibility of a CBI probe being ordered is much brighter because the CBI has the option of filing a preliminary investigation, a preliminary inquiry report before ultimately coming up with an FIR. Also, the CBI has a department, a division that looks specifically at phone tapping and interceptions. Remember, the department that looked at the Pawan Bansal case, and therefore the government believes the requisite expertise to be able to deal with a case as sensitive as this. We're also told to understand that, we're also given to understand that the initial report put together by the intelligence agencies, because remember these tapes and the complaint have been floating around in Delhi since March. So this has already been looked at very carefully by the investigating agencies. I'm given to understand that the initial report suggests that illegal tapping did happen. The government now is accepting that there was indeed a case of illegal tapping. However, they're not certain yet of what happened, who authorized this, why was this done. So those questions will need to be looked at by the investigating agencies. So those are the broad details. As you said, they're waiting for a final decision to be taken, whether it'll be a CBI probe or a Delhi police probe. But the India Today story at 11:30 p.m. on Saturday, we broke the story that the Prime Minister's office has asked for a probe. The Ministry of Home Affairs now confirming that there will soon be a formal probe. A discrete inquiry, meanwhile, has already started.
You know, this is one case, Rahul, that involves such big names, the who's and, the who's who of the business world, the political world, and it spreads across a time period that actually covers an NDA as well as a UPA government. Now, in this context, really, what are the kind of biggest challenges in the probe that will come up here?
Well, the first and foremost, one of the things that I was told, which is very interesting, is that this is very different from the Radia tapes. And let me explain why. Because the Radia tapes were based on interception officially ordered by the Income Tax Department when Neera Radia's phone was officially and with due permission kept under surveillance. And that's when the can of worms came open. This time, though, these are illegal private intercepts, and therefore they don't have the same sanctity under the eyes of law as the tapes which were recorded at the time of the Neera Radia phone tapping case. So that's the first point. They don't have the legal sanctity. So what needs to be done is they need to do forensics analysis to establish whether the voices are indeed of the people that they're meant to be. They're also supposed to analyze whether the tapes are genuine. Have they been spliced? Have they been diced? Remember, both the corporates involved in this, Reliance and Essar, have said that these are concocted, the voices are not ours, and that these are deliberately being misrepresented. So you need to identify whether the voices are indeed those of the people they're meant to be. That's the first thing. Secondly, you need to then get into the conversations that are happening, because remember, JPCs are being fixed, budget decisions are being made known in advance, lobbying is happening, there are policy decisions which ministers are telling private players even before those policy decisions get announced. That's really, really disturbing. So those are the subsequent part of the investigation. The first part hinges on Al-Basit Khan, where either there will be an attempt to try and get him to become a prover, but so far he's on the side of his former employer Essar, and he's saying that I never recorded this, Essar didn't ask me to, these came from Vijay Saliskar. So lots of very complex questions will need to be looked at.
Absolutely. And Suren Uppal there, the lawyer of Al-Basit Khan, of course, now saying that he has been bought over by Essar Group itself. We'll have to see as to what final course of action is now adopted by the government, and especially after Rajnath Singh returns from Lucknow. Many thanks, Rahul Kanwal, for getting us all those details. It is India's biggest tapping scandal, bigger possibly even than the Radia tapes. As the Essar tapes explode, India Today has accessed the diaries of the alleged whistleblower Al-Basit Khan. These diaries contain names of phone numbers, names, strategies, and even list the technology that was used to tap the phones of India's biggest corporates, politicians, and senior bureaucrats. This is an India Today exclusive.
As the Essar tape scandal explodes, the mystery around just how India's VVIPs was spied upon also deepens. Who were the people whose phones were tapped? How was the alleged tapping carried out? India Today has accessed 6 handwritten diaries that have details of the numbers that were allegedly tapped. These 6 logbooks, written between 2002 and 2006, were maintained allegedly by Al-Basit Khan, the former Essar employee who allegedly snooped on businessmen, politicians and bureaucrats. Supreme Court lawyer Suren Uppal claims that these diaries were handed over him to Al-Basit Khan himself in February 2016, a claim that Khan now denies. The diaries contain detailed information about how phones were tapped. The first diary, dated the 12th of August 2002, has a comprehensive list of target mobile numbers. Written next to the target numbers is a list of prepaid SIM cards which were used to tap these phones. And on the target list was some of India's biggest businessmen, politicians, bankers and bureaucrats. In the diaries, several businessmen are identified by their initials. But there are code words for some politicians who feature in the call logs. Some of the key characters who appear repeatedly in the logs are Chief Engineer, NXE, Bondu, Tentwala, Pista, Babji and Uncle. The diaries even detail the so-called action plan and have a separate section on political discussion and business strategies. Not just that, the diaries also have images of all the equipment that was used for the surveillance and tapping. It has detailed diagrams on the technology used for the tapping and notes on which mobile numbers were used as a ghost phone. The investigating agencies will need to identify who the VVIPs being referred to in the intercepted conversations actually are. Suren Uppal claims Al-Basit Khan told him that he would routinely inform the Essar management about the contents of the recorded conversations. But this claim is now being disputed again by Al-Basit Khan. These 6 logbooks will raise huge questions about why Khan would hand over such sensitive material to lawyer Suren Uppal. With Rahul Kanwal in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, Al-Basit Khan, the alleged whistleblower who submitted the details of the Essar phone taps to a Supreme Court lawyer, has now done a stunning U-turn. He claims that he never tapped any phones and that the phone recordings were handed over to him by 2611 martyr Vijay Salaskar. But an internal letter accessed by India Today reveals that Al-Basit Khan was angry at being sacked from Essar and vowed to take the directors of the company down with him if anything went wrong. The big question is, why did he then make a U-turn?
He's the man who allegedly tapped the phones of India's biggest corporates, politicians and senior bureaucrats while employed by Essar. A high-end private security expert, Khan was hired by the Ruya family that owns Essar when they received threatening calls in the year 2000. He had claimed that he was asked by Essar officials to tap phones of VVIPs as the government had authorized interception. Al-Basit Khan was suddenly sacked in May 2011, and that's when, according to lawyer Suren Uppal, he turned whistleblower in the scandalous tapping case. But Al-Basit Khan has now made a complete about-turn. India Today has accessed an internal letter allegedly written by Al-Basit Khan to the Chief Executive Officer of the Essar Group, Prashant Ruya. In the letter dated 16th of November 2012, Al-Basit Khan complains of injustice and harassment by the HR department of the Essar Group. Was it this so-called injustice that made Al-Basit Khan turn against his employer Essar? In the letter to the Essar CEO, Khan says he received an SMS from Prashant Ruiya's secretary asking him to meet SS Khandwawala, who was the head of the company's vigilance and security department. Al-Basit Khan complains that the head of the security department had no idea about the work done by Khan during his employment with Essar, and that he was threatened by Khandwawala and warned not to initiate police action against the Essar Group. Al-Basit also goes on to say that whatever he did was exclusively at the instructions of his bosses, the management at Essar, and for the benefit of the company, and that if anything goes wrong with him, the company as well as its directors and promoters will not be spared. Al-Basit Khan had approached the Supreme Court lawyer Suren Uppal in February this year and handed over CDs of the tapped conversations of VVIPs allegedly recorded at the behest of Essar. But in April this year, Khan suddenly did an about turn. The key question is, was Al-Basit Khan upset with Essar for sacking him? And was the act of handing over the incriminating and damaging CDs and logbooks just a ploy to hit back at the company's management? With Rahul Kaval in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.